Namibia Agronomic Board, NAB, has revealed that approximately 50% of Namibian wheat-producing farmers have discontinued wheat production. Only 31 wheat farmers persisted with cultivation nationwide, a significant decline from the 61 farmers recorded in 2022. Recent data from the Namibia Statistics Agency unveiled that between 2020 and 2021, Namibia expended $447.7 million Namibian dollars on wheat imports from Russia and Poland due to diminished domestic production. During this period, Namibia managed to produce a mere 10.3% of the wheat that it consumed, resulting to importing 114,363 tons to meet local demand. Now, to share more on the matter is Gilbert Mulonda, the General Manager of Agronomy and Horticulture Development at the Namibia Agronomic Board. A very good evening to you, Mr. Mulonda. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, good evening, and thank you for welcoming me, and good evening to our listeners as well.
So, sir, can you elaborate a little bit on the specific challenges that are faced by wheat farmers that have led to the decision to abandon wheat farming?
All right, thank you very much. I think to start is just to state that wheat is actually a winter crop in Namibia. So we don't do summer wheat. Now, given that, one of the biggest challenge in terms of wheat production, given that is produced in winter time, is the first challenge is that we have got a very high production input structure. So one of the biggest input in this case is actually the aspect of electricity cost. So this is one of the biggest costs, as most of the farmers actually rely on irrigating their crops. And electricity is one of the inputs that they actually use, and it's quite very high. So then apart from that, we also have got challenges related to climate change. Things have changed quite drastically due to the impact of climate change. And this is actually touching on the aspect of availability of water. So water is the biggest part when it comes to production of wheat. And at the moment, our biggest production area is the Hadap area. That's where our almost about 55% of our wheat is produced. And from time to time, due to climate change, they actually normally face water shortages due to low levels of water in the dam. So that is one of the biggest significant challenge. Then we also have got issues related to very high temperature, particularly during the winter time. As you know, wheat actually requires a certain amount of cold for it to be able to give you a better yield and quality wheat in the end. So, and sometimes the temperatures are so high to a certain extent that farmers are unable to realize very good yields and quality wheat in the end. So I think these are some of the biggest challenges. But again, on the other hand, we also have got challenges that are related to storage.
Mr. Mulonda, just how significant is this decline in wheat production in Namibia, and what impact would you say it has on the country's food security and also on the agricultural sector?
All right, thank you. In terms, I wouldn't say that there is a decline in wheat. I think what we are seeing is the fluctuation in the production of wheat in the country. And this fluctuation is actually anchored on so many things. And at the end of the day, it's a decision that the farmer has to make, which is basically the aspect of economic returns on behalf of the farmers. So, and therefore we have seen a situation whereby wheat production is actually fluctuating from year on and so on as a result of farmers showing interest in the production of wheat. Now, one of the biggest aspects that actually attracts farmers to produce wheat in a particular year is the aspect of price. So in 2022, we have seen the price of wheat was almost about 8,000 Namibian dollars per ton. And during that year, we realized one of the biggest harvests of wheat as a result of farmers who saw an opportunity and they invested into production. Then in 2023, the situation changed. And this is simply because the price also dropped. From 8,000 per ton, it dropped to about 5,500 Namibian dollars per ton. And that actually led to a situation whereby most of the farmers could not see it economical to actually do wheat production. So I think that is what we foresee from our side, that there is not really a decline, but rather a fluctuation in production of wheat as a result of factors that are related to economic gain.
What measures, if any, are being implemented or proposed to support wheat farmers and also to encourage the continuation of wheat production in the country?
Yes, thank you. The Namibian Agronomic Board has embarked on research. So we currently doing trials on different varieties of wheat in different production areas. And the whole idea is really to try to identify varieties that can be able to adapt to our climate and be able to give better yields and quality grains at the end of the day. So this is one intervention that we have started in 2021 in collaboration with UNAM, and we have done this for almost 3 seasons now. And at this stage, we are at the stage of a multiplication of seeds. So we hope this is going to assist quite a number of farmers in terms of really selecting seeds that can be able to adapt better to their specific climatic conditions. So then apart from that, we are also in a process of engaging different role players, particularly to look at the aspect of high production cost, particularly on electricity, on fertilizers, and on seeds. So this is one of the biggest cost of production, and it really deters a lot of farmers from actually going into production from year on, year out. And that's why, as a result of that, farmer would only go into wheat production when they see that the price is slightly higher, so that they can be able to make money.
Well, you mentioned climatic conditions. How does climate change as well as environmental factors play a role in shaping the future of wheat production in the country? And what adaptation strategies are there that are being considered?
Yes, when it comes to issues of climatic or environmental aspect, we are very much aware that climate change is quite a reality, particularly for Namibia. So Namibia is one of the countries that is actually heavily impacted by climate change. So we see very high temperatures, and we also see sometimes we get very early rainfall, because wheat is actually normally harvested from October. So sometimes in certain production areas, farmers receive very early rainfall. And as a result of that, their wheat is normally affected in terms of quality as a result of rainfall. So the aspect of climate change, it actually affects the overall yield in terms of production. So I think climate change is quite a reality, and we have seen for this year, we are not even sure that if farmers that are in the hard-up area will be able to grow wheat as a result of the dam that is almost to empty. And this is one of our biggest production areas. So in terms of some of the strategies, there are actually calls at the moment to actually request the government to uplift the current restriction on the 70% dam level in terms of the maximum amount that can be stored in that dam, to actually increase it slightly, so that there is sufficient water that is actually stored in that dam to allow farmers to be able to do winter cropping as well. So in terms of climate adaptability issues, we have, as I've indicated earlier on, the aspect of research is quite very important for us. And that's why we are doing this, so that we can be able to find varieties that are actually tolerant to our climatic conditions, because it's quite a unique climatic condition.
Well, to close, looking ahead, what are the prospects for revitalizing the wheat industry in the country, and what steps are needed to be taken to ensure its sustainability and its viability?
Yes, thank you very much. The aspect of economic gain from farmers' perspective is very important. As long as the farmer does not see or does not realize income in terms of wheat production, they will not be able to venture into wheat production. So I think from our side, it's a task that we have given ourselves to make sure that, number one, we address the aspect of yield. So yield is very important because it determines how much money a farmer can be able to make on a particular area. So, and therefore, that's why we are embarking on research to make sure that we are able to address some of these issues. So in terms of water challenges, the biggest challenge in terms of water is particularly areas that are inland. So there is a problem with water, and that particular issue is currently being addressed to make sure that there is sufficient water in some of our dams where production can be able to take place. Then the other aspect, of course, I touched on the issue of storage, is one of the biggest challenges that we have currently, because most of the farmers do not have sufficient storage capacity on the farm. And therefore, they rely on millers to actually store some of their grain. So this is one of their biggest challenge, and therefore they are unable to deliver their product on time on the market. And as a result of that, there is very high post-harvest losses as a result of lack of proper storage on the farms. So I think those are some of the things that we are looking at to make sure that we are able to position the production of wheat on an upward trend in the next 5 years.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Mulonda, for sharing that information with us tonight.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. That has been Gilbert Mulonda, who is the General Manager of Agronomy and Horticulture